So can we have roll call, Dennis?
Commissioner Bagnell?
Here.
Commissioner Balkenstedt?
Here.
Commissioner Coronado? Commissioner Elrod?
Here.
Commissioner Gallagher?
Here.
Commissioner Newfinke?
Here.
Commissioner Metcalf?
Here.
Commissioner Ranville?
Here.
Commissioner Samuelson?
Here.
And Commissioner Coronado did say he'd be here later tonight. So.
And we have a quorum. So the first agenda item is to look at the agenda, goals, and formats for the meeting. So are there any changes to the agenda?
We did pass out a revised agenda that primarily just shows some different meeting dates and times, so at the bottom of the agenda.
One change I would like to make is with the draft plan, outstanding issues and direction, I'd like to move the executive summary to the very last bullet point. So kind of switch that so that we'll do the introduction, vision, and downtown planning principles, then the executive summary, primarily because it's, you know, it kind of follows, I mean, it's the last thing that we need to do, and it makes sense to me. So do you guys agree? Great.
Yep, sure.
Yep. Any other changes to the draft plan? Or, not the draft plan, the agenda.
Wishful thinking.
You want to cut right to the chase, huh?
I was trying. Okay, so with that, I'd like to introduce Glenn and see if he wants to say some words about himself.
Sure. Thank you all for having me. Glenn Vandenwagen, I'm the Director of Community Development, and just give you a quick bio on my background. I've spent 26 years doing planning work in the Phoenix area. I'm a Phoenix native, so this is a very different environment for me, but I think all the planning challenges are very similar. So I think I've always kind of been a Coloradan at heart. My wife is from Salida, Colorado, and so we spent a lot of time up here. And, you know, the planets aligned, and this was just a great opportunity. So I'm thrilled to be here and working with such a great planning commission. It's been known internationally, I've heard. I'm really excited to be part of this group. Thanks.
How about we go around the room and introduce ourselves and just say something real quick about what you do and what part of town you live in, and also what you hope to accomplish with the Planning Commission. So, should we start with Suzanne, the City Attorney?
Sure. I'm Suzanne Steyer. I'm the City Attorney, and I hope that you never get sued. How's that?
My name's Tony Gallagher. I'm a retired engineering manager from Quest, and it's my goal to keep Suzanne busy.
Jenny Ranville, and I'm an architect. I live very close to the Bemis Library and the Littleton Historical Museum. And one of my goals is just that we're planning our city for taking into account all ages.
My name's Steve Bockenstead. I've lived in Littleton since 1972. I'm a parts manager at an auto dealership, and I live in the Aspen Grove neighborhood.
Aspen Canyons, no. I'm Linda Newfinke. I live just north of Aspen Grove Shopping Center and next to the new apartments that they're building over in Aspen Grove. And I do healthcare decision support consulting. So I work with hospitals around the country to not process their data, but to regurgitate their data.
Healthcare, that sounds appropriate. Hi, Glenn, David Metcalf. My training's in architecture, but mostly been doing construction management and planning for the last 25, 30 years. Recently, semi-retired program manager. Live in the extreme south area of Littleton, South Park. My goals with the Planning Commission are to balance private property rights with public needs and goals, and balance the traditional feel of Littleton with some reasonable growth.
Kurt Samuelson. I live just about a mile from David in South Central Littleton. I've been there about 20 years. I've been in the residential mortgage industry for 28 years here in the Denver metro area.
Hi, sorry, not used to microphones. I'm Karina Elrod. I've been a Littleton resident about 12 years, and I originally fell in love with Littleton because of the small town feel, the community, but I've also seen a lot of changes in the past 10 years and really just wanted to be a part of that change going forward. Professionally, I worked for Western Union, and I managed their online business doing business planning, development, product management.
I'm Matt Bagnall, and I've lived in Littleton my whole life, and I do project and personnel management, and my goal is to just help maintain such a great city.
That's great. So now to the draft agenda and date for the annual workshop. Should we look at a date first?
Yeah, the date, we were talking about tentatively June 11th, and it doesn't work for Glenn. He's got an excellent excuse, unless we all want to go help him unload the van that day. That day is not going to work, so we need to see if we can find another Saturday, and I know we had trouble finding the first one, so, but let's kind of, and even that one didn't work for everybody. I think we had a few people that weren't going to be able to make the 11th either. So open to other dates that might work for people. We could just go down. We're looking at Saturdays, and we could just go one after the next and just kind of get a read if it's going to work for folks, if that makes sense. The next one after the 11th would be the 18th. Does that work for people? No, it doesn't work for me either. So
That was fast.
Good thing. Okay. And the 25th, does that work for people?
Yeah, works for me now.
No? Did I hear a, no? Okay, doesn't work for me either, so that's good. Okay.
Maybe we should start from the short.
How about July 2nd? That's July 4th weekend. I'm assuming that's not a good weekend. July 9th?
Nope.
No? Okay. July 16th?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. July 23rd?
Actually, you know what? 16th does work for me.
Does work?
It's the 17th, I'm leaving.
Doesn't work for me.
No?
16th doesn't work.
Doesn't work, okay. July 23rd? No? Okay. Did I hear a no?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now we know why we did this as a spring workshop.
Exactly, I know, that's right. July 30th? No? Okay. We're into August.
We need to synchronize our
Yeah.
August 6th does not work for me.
Would it help if we split it out amongst 2 days? Like, so is it originally planned for 8 hours, 6 hours? What is it?
Yeah, usually we do about 6.
So if we try to split it over 2 times, might
we
that
could do
be,
it during the week.
might that work? Or are mostly people's plans an all-day event?
So mine tend to be all day, typically. I think most people are out of town. We could try just extended periods during the week. That might work. So just have longer evening meetings, start earlier, go later, and change our location just so.
I think, part of the concern is if we start getting into August, we're already half of the year. So at some point, we have to say this is too late.
Okay, what, June 4th?
What's wrong with June
Board and
4th?
commission dinner that evening?
That Friday is the commission dinner.
That's okay, we can all fall asleep at the open bar.
June 4th, yeah. The 3rd is the Board and Commissions dinner, but
Oh, third.
yeah, 4th?
Fourth for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Certainly better than August.
One moment, please.
Okay. Nope, okay. So I'm open to maybe times during the week that might work. We could try alternate Monday nights, do something like that. We, of course, have Historic Preservation Board on the 3rd Monday, so we'd have to be looking at probably the First Monday or the fifth Monday, I guess if there is one in some months. So the first Monday, for example, for June would be June 6th. Does that,
Works for me.
so do an extended evening on June 6th, and then a second one sometime later in the summer? Marina, it works? Okay.
Once we
So-
settle on an agenda, we can figure out how it's going to break
Yeah,
apart.
true. Okay.
And it may be nice to try to have them somewhat, I don't know if it's like a Monday and a Tuesday, but so that we don't have to kind of regurgitate what we remember.
Okay.
Monday, Wednesday?
Monday, Wednesday might work.
Wednesday's going to work for me.
Okay.
Monday, Thursday?
So it'd be the 6th and the 9th, possibly?
Ninth, Historic Preservation Board's got a meeting, and I don't know why it's on a Thursday this month, but
What about a Friday and a Monday? So we could do like a Friday evening and then a Monday evening?
Mm-hmm. So
Something
maybe
like
the
that.
6th and the 10th? I'd still like-
I'd really rather not use my Friday nights.
Yeah,
It's
I'd
kind of
really
a-
Yeah, yeah,
kind of a
okay.
family night for me.
Okay, okay. If we did the 6th and the 14th? You sure HPB has something on the 9th?
Pardon?
Historic Preservation, where is it?
It's right here. The ninth.
Huh. I don't have it on my calendar. I wonder what it is. Okay.
It's beginning to look like we're never going to find
Yeah,
out.
there's something special, that's right. So 6th is working still for folks. Just how close do we go? So if we went to the next week,
Could we do Tuesday?
What about
Monday
6 and
and
7?
Tuesday?
Yeah, let's go
Tuesday
seven.
the 7th is city council.
Oh, yeah, we don't want to be around those guys.
They have a regular meeting.
They do have a regular meeting that night.
So we could be at the museum room.
Yeah, why don't we have it at one of the local bars or something?
Well, Glenn will probably
get
have to
better
be
turnout.
at city council.
Well, yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah,
so,
we kind of want him there, huh?
yeah, it's kind of nice. And Glenn, do you have other kind of limitations other than the 11th, that weekend? Are there times that don't work for you, but?
Other weekends? No, I will use any other weekend.
Okay.
You know, if we can't find a weekend, the rest, June, July, or August, where everybody can be here, we may just have to settle on a date when somebody can't be here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
May 31st is open, Janice, for council. I mean, that's a fifth Tuesday. I don't know what anyone's doing then. It's the day after Memorial.
So, Tuesday the
31st.
31st. That's next Tuesday, yeah. Actually, that doesn't work for me. I've got that night. Sixth, yeah, don't work for Tony. Thursday, Tony thinks there's a HPB meeting. That sounds right. There is.
On the schedule.
What is it that night? Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, the design guidelines workshop, that's right. Workshop, that's right. Okay.
Is there anything June 2nd, Thursday the 2nd, and then Monday the 6th? Or the, yeah,
Thursday the 2nd might work. Does Thursday the 2nd work for folks?
Works for me.
Thursday the 2nd of June?
Yep.
That works for me.
Oh,
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't?
First, 2nd, and 3rd of June, I'm booked.
Okay.
I'm booked. I got stuff to do.
Okay. So if we go to the week of the 13th, how about Tuesday the 14th? Or the 13th, we've got business meeting that night. So we could do the 6th and the 14th, or 6th and the 15th?
15th doesn't work.
15th is a Wednesday again.
Right, I'm sorry.
6 and 14 is good
6
for
and
me.
14?
Works for me.
There's no city council that day?
No.
Study session.
Well, study session probably, yeah.
It's going to be
We could do,
liquor authority.
Okay, is it that night? Okay. So we've
So I'll
done,
be gone,
oh, you'll be,
but
oh.
I can do the 6th.
You
I
do the
can
6th?
my part on the 6th.
Okay, good, just not be there for the 14th, okay. So, does that sound good to people? Need to find a location? We can do that.
Everybody that can make those dates, raise their hand. 6 and 14.
The 6th and the 14th, Tuesday the 14th and Monday the 6th.
so everybody's good with that?
Everybody got,
And as far as the time, are we trying to plan on meeting a little bit earlier?
I think we try and do 6, probably.
6?
6,
Sounds good to me.
I think earlier than that's tough for people, so
6 to 9?
6 to 9, 6 to 10, 6 to 7.
6 to 9,
6 to 9 is good.
6 to 9, okay. Okay, great.
The 4th and the 13th?
6th and the 14th.
That's still good for me.
Okay, good.
Okay, so that takes us to the draft agenda. Dennis, did you want to?
Yeah. I did not get comments back from everybody, and I don't know if I just didn't get them, or you didn't feel like you had a sense of what the issues were. So we could still talk about it tonight, get everybody's sense of what the issues are. Here's what I've gotten today. So I didn't get them from Matt or Karina or Tony. I got yours. I didn't get Kurt. I didn't get a second set from you. I got your first set. Did I miss? So if I missed it, I apologize. Okay.
I have them.
Okay. Oh, you do have them tonight?
It's in my car.
Okay. All right. Then we can fill it in. So.
Okay.
No, it's,
And there seems to be a pattern anyway, so I'm not sure how much discussion we need to get into tonight. Because it's coming up so soon, we probably need to have a pretty clear idea of what our agenda is and what we want to
Particularly for the
express.
6th, yeah.
Right. So, the thought, so we have got under topics, the PDO process, TIZ. Any questions from the newer members in terms of what any of these might be? Or
Yeah,
why-
I feel like I'm used to these acronyms because you spell stuff out. Because I never look through it.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. And some of them are related, so yeah, they're like PDO and TIZ, they're all kind of related in terms of what the processes are for downtown. The plan development overlay process and the transit impact zone are definitely interrelated.
And again, 3 is most important to us, 1 is least.
It goes from 0 to 3. Development and zoning issue, implications and procedures, zoning code enforcement procedures, the walking tour, small area planning, city council direction. Those are all under topics for process. The comprehensive plan, a lot of ones on that in terms of we need to be spending time on that. And this question, was the thought when you did a 1, is that we actually spend that time working on the plan, or that we talk about what we need to do to get to finishing the plan?
I thought it was just ranking topics as far as how high a priority they were.
Okay. But what was the topic? Was the topic actually doing it, or the process for getting there?
Oh, for the comp plan?
Right, yeah, on that one.
I don't know,
fairly
Tony.
low, but it was for the process and our timing.
Okay.
We're looking at
Okay.
that, not necessarily working on the plan.
Not working on the plan
itself.
itself, okay, great, okay, good.
I'd like to make a proposal before we talk about the administrative issues. Some of the other suggestions, I would like to propose that we deal with number 24, legal, administrative, and practical overview process for planning and zoning, because Suzanne's going to be there at that meeting. And I propose that that be an agenda item. What do you guys think?
I make a motion to that effect.
Okay, should we vote? All those in favor of having that on the very first day, that's June 6th? That is Kurt and Karina, and Steve against, so. So what other topics do you guys think are important from this list for that June 6th meeting? That's going to be, Suzanne, how long will that take?
I think I did it a couple years ago, didn't I? What was it, maybe a half hour, an hour? It depends on how many questions, what kind of roundtable y'all want to get into. I think my part probably takes about a half an hour, and then if, it's really up to the board how long you want to set it, because we could talk about it for the whole day, or we could talk about it for half an hour.
And if we're talking about more than just the legal issues, start talking about administrative issues of things that happen with the process of getting to the board or to the planning commission, and then issues that we talk about typically in a hearing, that's going to extend that a little bit.
So maybe an hour and a half?
Yeah, because the way this topic is written, if it's legal, administrative, and practical, then I would be doing it with somebody else.
Is an hour and a half long enough, or do we want to just move it to 2?
I don't think you want to spend more than an hour and a half, given that you only have 6 hours blocked.
And so that's part of the time, so we now have an hour and a half left for that day. Any, Jenny?
Parking, I think, is really important. That was one thing that was really brought up with the council breakfast, that they certainly wanted to get some direction and hear some feedback from us, so I think that's definitely a topic.
If we're going to have the resources there to talk about the legal, administrative, and that sort of thing of the process, we might look at something else that's process-related, legal, staff, that sort of thing for that same night, just so we can take care of it with the same people there. So I don't know whether that gets us into
21 or 22?
21 or 22, or even 19, I guess, to a certain extent.
I knew what all that meant. Actually, probably do know most of it.
Well, 19 was talking about the relationship of the Planning Commission, Development Review Committee, Business Industrial Affairs, and Historic Preservation Board, how they fit together, overlap, sometimes conflict.
We could combine 19 and 21.
22 is about what are the things that are conflicting more around policy than they are around organization, right?
Right.
I think those three, 19, 21, and 24, can all go together. And you can probably cross 4 out on top, too.
Right.
So, and 20.
And then you do all of those on that first night? You think that that's going to chew up that whole first night?
Yes.
Totally.
Yeah,
Easily.
sure will.
That's going to be a long, exhausting meeting.
No, it's not. It's going to be 4 hours.
Exhausting in terms of trying to keep our heads wrapped around it and the implications for everything else we do on a week-to-week basis or with the comp plan.
So the proposal is to combine 19, 21, 24, and do we want to include 22?
I think that's pretty different.
Okay. So 19, 21, and 24, all those in favor of?
What about 25? It looks like it's somewhat related.
Let's bring in outsiders.
That's bringing outsiders in, and that's also starting to talk about the policy issues that we'd really get into with 22 or even 23. So those might be a good grouping to consider for the other night.
So everybody in favor of that combination, 19, 21, and 24 together? That is Jenny, that's everybody?
No.
Oh, Steve, I'm sorry.
Steve, you think we're missing something, or technology might?
Yeah, I would like to try to get the comp plan, downtown comp plan done. I think that's the most important thing that should be on our plate.
Or look ahead?
I'm worried that we're going to just keep pushing it off and and not getting anything done. And next thing you know, we're going to be into July, and we still got this thing that we haven't got to yet.
So,
Save a half an hour
that-
at the end.
Well, we've already voted on doing that. What about the second day?
Yeah.
We've got the focus of the second day is to get that done.
and Jenny's proposed parking, and then you're proposing the downtown comp plan, or finishing the comp plan. Should we vote?
Well, I guess I'm hearing something different again, because when I asked earlier, is that just talking about the process we're doing, or is it actually doing it? Steve, I hear you saying you actually want to work on it.
I want to get it done.
You want to work on it?
Yes, I want to get it done.
Okay. And I guess the question is that what you want to do at your annual meeting, or do you want to just, you could have special meetings other than that to do it? They kind of overlap, I guess, in my mind, in terms of how you do it.
How long is our regular meeting likely to take on the 13th? Do we have a lot?
It should be fairly short. It's one agenda item. I would think it'd be an hour, hour and a half, probably. So we should have,
Just spend that special session Monday evening after the regular meeting, the application hearing, just focusing on how we wrap this up.
you're thinking if it's not done, you want to keep
Yeah,
working on it.
yeah, I'd like to get it done.
I guess the other thing that isn't on here really, it's kind of indirectly, is just a work program, and it kind of gets into, we've got parts of that.
12, yeah.
Oh, 12 is annual, okay, good, yeah, okay. Which I think it covers a lot of this in terms of, what comes next and
Well,
what are their priorities.
And it feels like we need to come up with a work plan for ourselves for the year to clearly define we are going to get the comp plan done. Or what's it going to take to get the comp plan done? 5 meetings, 10 meetings, whatever that amount of
And
time
what comes
is.
after that, yeah.
You
So
know,
really 10 and
and
12 go together.
If really, I have no sense of this, but if, I don't know how much time it takes to complete a comp plan, that may be all we do in 1 year.
But we have other priorities from city council that have been kind of assigned to us, like looking at the parking situation and then addressing the PDO process.
Right, so-
And I think that's why it's so important to come up with that annual
Right.
work plan to say, what are all the, what's the list of things that have been assigned to us to complete, and what can we realistically accomplish versus not, and then have to make that decision, I think.
Jenny?
I guess my hope is that we're going to have a revised draft that we're going to be able to officially look at and vote very soon. And so my hope is that this comp plan, that we are very close to voting on it. I guess that's my perspective and take. And then after that, it's just a matter of going through city council, reviewing it, and that process. So I guess
that's my point. I don't understand, so I don't have the transparency to know that we're at the just
I think
review and
I
approve
hope-
process.
I
And
hope we're at the finish.
And I think that's what we need to understand on all of these topics that have been ranked high by the overall team, to say, okay, here are the 5 things that we all feel are important, and, what's the level of effort for each of these things? If it's just a review and sign-off process, hopefully that's 2 sessions worth or something like that, so it helps us to plan.
If we could squeeze how we finish up the comp plan in at the end of the first session, set aside a half an hour so we can really focus on that. That gives us the rest of our regular meeting, our study session, part of the regular meeting on the 13th, to do whatever last-minute things we need to do and not interrupt the annual workshop.
You're not talking about just coming up with another timeline, are you?
No. No, I mean,
We've
we have
done
to sit
enough
down and
of
figure
those.
out what we have to do to finish it up.
Well, and I think we should talk about it at the end of this meeting, too. What are the specific steps to be able to finish this comp plan? And then maybe we can make adjustments into the schedule that way. Steve, would that work?
Yeah, I'm just worried that, we've done several timelines, and then we just go right on by the end of the timeline, we still haven't come anywhere near getting anything done, and then a month later, we'll come up with another timeline, and we'll be right on through that, and we still haven't got it done. And at one point, we had hopes that we were going to get it all done before all the other guys left, and they've been gone now, what, a month and a half? And, and what I'm worried is that we're going to be another month and a half, 2 months down the road, and we still haven't got it. At some point in time, this gets to be embarrassing on how we keep saying we're close. And, I would say we were probably saying we were pretty close about a year ago. And
So will that work for you if we took, after we finish what we have done today, and then really just analyze it and look at the specific steps we need to take to be able to outline exactly what we need to do and when we need to do it, and set some targeted timeframes like public outreach. When are we going to finish the draft? You know, when do we need, what sections do we need to approve?
Well, we could do it all relative to when you're comfortable with it and sign off on it, too. Once that's done, then here's what happens after that. And so it's not as tied into a specific date for total completion, but here's what happens. This takes 4 weeks, this takes whatever. So
Yeah.
you have a sense of it.
I think maybe to save time, that Dennis and I can put together what the steps are and get them to you so that at least, particularly for the new people, you know where we're going and what's involved. I agree with Steve that, my sense of this group is you're going to take all the time that you need to get it done. And so I think there's both the sense of let's get it done, we've been talking about it forever, and there's also the sense of we need to make sure that we feel comfortable with what we actually sign off on. So I think the first step is to just, what are the steps coming up? And most of you know them, but so that we're all on the same page, and then we can spend that time tonight going over this. Does that work?
To work for you, and then we can compile those. Okay. So then that leaves us with two areas that we discussed, parking and the annual work plan. Any other priorities that you guys see that?
We're talking about parking the annual work plan for on the day of the 14th.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully we can talk about a lot more than that. The roundtable with Lamb and Jim Woods and Gibbons and Tom Christopher. Is that going to be on there too? I'm just not sure. I don't know how long that's going to take.
And I would think that you'd want to leave like an hour and a half if we did the roundtable,
Yeah.
at least minimum. So, Jen?
One of my thoughts is if the roundtable could be, that they could be talking about some of the issues that we're going to be bringing up later. And so it'd be kind of an introduction to some of the behind the scenes. If we talk about the PDO process and the TIS, that they would be giving a brief on that, so that it would be even more productive for us when we get into our discussion, that we have a certain level of information that we're all grounded on to be able to make some decisions.
So for that to be roundtable first?
Well, and for that to be most effective, they're going to want some fairly specific directions to what you want to hear. So what do you want to cover? So I think you're right. If you go through and kind of say, here's what we want you to talk about, and what we want you, how you want you to focus, that would be really helpful.
So how about we vote on the roundtable? All those that want to see the roundtable occur on the 14th, raise your hand. So we have Steve, Karina, Kurt, and Dave against. So that's...
Yeah, I'd say I'm not so much against it, just I think we need to define for them what it is we're going to cover. Are we going to cover urban or small area planning in general? We're going to talk about the process from a policy standpoint instead of administrative and legal. Pull the things together they're going to put into the roundtable so that they know what we're asking them to present. We know what they're going to present, so we can be prepared to discuss it, because it's going to be, a roundtable is going to be more than just them doing their 15 or 20 minutes and then questions. So if we can agree on what we're bringing into that whole session from the rest of this list, that'd be great.
Maybe that's something we can schedule for a special meeting down the road.
Yeah, my opposition isn't, I'm completely for the roundtable. I'm concerned about timing and trying to do too much. And we've already identified some critical areas that we want to address, being the comp plan, parking. So my opposition is more from a allocation of time than it is the desire to have a roundtable.
Well, I would think the work program is going to cover the parking. My sense of what you're talking about is just go a little bit farther with parking, because that is a priority for City Council. But it's still on the work program. How do we accomplish this? What's the process for it? Who do we have do it? Do we do it ourselves? And what's the timeline for it? But as part of the work program, I think certainly ties directly into that, as does the PDO and TIZ, which I think you were directed to as well.
How about having the annual work plan as part of the agenda on the 14th?
I think that's important. Sure.
Yeah, so all those in favor of that? So that's unanimous. Then we need another issue for the 14th.
I apologize for being late tonight, but has it been decided that the workshop would be on the 14th of July, is that?
We have two. We've broken it up. We couldn't find a weekend, so we're doing two nights. One is Monday the 6th, and then Tuesday the 14th
Okay.
of June.
Does that work for you?
Yes, yeah, it does.
Good.
So what all do we have for the 14th so far? Have we got the,
Just the annual work
Parking
plan.
and the annual work plan.
We didn't vote on the,
We didn't go over parking yet.
so should we, is that?
So the roundtable is going to cover some of these other items that we had on here, right? Okay, so that we can assume that they're taken care of.
What items would the roundtable cover?
Things like conflicts between zoning and the other things, public process. I mean, Tom Christopite just last month finished a pub session where he's talking about exactly that, public input, public participation in the planning process. So it'd be a timely subject to include in that.
Well, and I personally think that we should include that in the annual work plan so that we can actually say, these are the subjects that we want to cover at specific meetings, and then have staff be prepared to address those issues at those times. And that'll save us some time. Slot it in. No, you guys don't agree?
I just think you're going to find when you sit down to come up with an agenda for the roundtable, you're going to cover those things. It's inevitable. If we're covering the legal and the administrative and the process in the first session, then all that's left is policy, how all those things fit together, how one influences the other. That's what the roundtable is going to cover.
But we still need to have discussion based on what occurs within the roundtable, and we need to make decisions based on
Yeah, maybe I misunderstood. I didn't think it was just going to be us listening to Tom and Glenn and everybody else talking. I thought we would be engaging in the issues that are presented and how we reconcile them.
And I think we have to agree on the format that we would like to use for that, so I think that's still up to debate. So we still have parking on the table?
It's an important part of planning for the city.
So do we want to
Here lately.
put parking on the agenda for the 14th?
I'd say put parking, the PDO process, and the TIZ up there. The idea of us issuing the first draft for the downtown area complex without having resolved what we are going to recommend on parking, PDO, and TIZ, in my mind, is silly.
But I think parking is very specific, and
So are the others.
I think they deserve to be addressed separately.
Are we going to have time to do all three?
I don't,
Well, again, I guess it depends on what you want to do. My thought, those are all huge topics, and it can be very time-consuming when you actually get into them in terms of actually thinking about what are the issues, what are other cities doing, what's your recommendation, and it's going to be above and beyond what Planning Commission probably can do by itself. It's going to take some expert advice coming into that as well, particularly get into parking. You're really talking about hiring a consultant to do that. So I think what would be useful, from staff standpoint at least, is give the direction in terms of the work program. What's the priority for parking, and what's that entail in terms of the Planning Commission's role, in terms of working with a consultant, time frame, whatever it might be. How do you want to approach that? Do you want a citizen advisory committee on that? Do you want to do that yourselves? Do you want to have a public outreach process? What's entailed with doing parking? What's entailed with looking at the different processes in terms of what's the timing and how do you do it? So it's really more approach at this point. There's no way we're going to come up with solutions for any of these things at this point. It's really just, how do we tackle it?
and I think it'll take at least 2 meetings to really discuss parking thoroughly, in addition to discussing it at this annual workshop.
And I guess
So do you want to just cast it aside and dedicate special meetings to do that?
No, I guess, just to add on to what Dennis is saying, I think your work plan would take 3 hours easily. That's what I've been, my experience. And it gets to the root of all these issues that we need to address, and realizing we have finite staff time and what kind of resources can we bring to it. I would hate to see that second meeting loaded up and then you don't get any of those things accomplished. So your work plan is the thing you should be doing, I think, in this work session. Let's get that nailed down. Now we kind of have our marching orders, and we know the issues that need to be addressed and when they need to be addressed.
So do we want to put the roundtable at the head of the second day and then work on a work plan for the rest of it? I mean, if it's going to take that long. We've got a 4-hour block on each day, roughly.
3 hours.
3 hours, okay.
6 to 9.
So,
But I like his enthusiasm.
I personally think the roundtable, we should schedule as a separate special meeting and do that as part of, actually schedule that as part of.
and that's fine. I'm just asking questions. I'm not advocating one way or the other. Because I'm kind of new to this situation, so.
Although, the roundtable, at least the way I'm looking at it, is an opportunity to hear from experience that could influence or help give us some direction of what the work plan could, or best practices around, how a work plan could work or something, right? So it might be a nice introduction to the second meeting on the 14th.
I mean, the other thought would be to get your work program together, and I agree with Glenn, it can be a 3-hour process in and of itself, time to have all the discussion. And then as part of that, when you say, okay, here's what we want to work on, you could then give that as a charge to the panel and say, here's what we want more information on with these 3 items. We want you to help us identify what you see as the issues, what you see as best solutions, best practices to accomplish this. So a real specific direction, and probably not the whole work program, but just a few things. If you're going to focus in on what you think is most important and ask them to really focus on those, then it really get a real useful discussion, I think.
So all those in favor of having just one agenda item, which is the annual work plan for the meeting on the 14th? Wait. 1, 2, 3.
Sorry, I want to clarify that. So is the statement that that's the only item we'll discuss on the 14th?
That's the only agenda item on the 14th.
It's,
Jenny?
for the work plan, do you see, it sounds like that each of these areas, some of the things that we have prioritized would be incorporated then in the work plan?
Right.
So that basically that we would touch upon them as far as how they all fit
Yeah,
into this year moving forward.
right, that's how I would see it, yeah.
Okay, so basically by having 3 hours to the work plan, we are going to be touching on these topics. So we,
Right, but we won't be solving all the topics. But yes, at least we'll know how your level of importance and how that fits into the timeline. And it won't be forgotten, and that'll be our direction for the year.
Steve?
Something else, we got 3 new members that haven't been involved yet with it. I think somewhere along the line would be the City Council Planning Commission direction from the workshop where they gave us our instructions on what they expect from the comp plan. We got 3 people that are going to have to be voting on the comp plan, not knowing what City Council has told us we need to do. And that's something I don't think is going to take a whole lot of time, because we've got it bullet pointed exactly what they have told us about. And, I think if we included that in there, I think if we took a half an hour with that, that'd be a long time.
Don't they also provide direction, or haven't they also provided direction of what would evolve to be our work plan? So parking, I heard, was a priority, obviously the comp plan. So isn't there more to their direction than just the comp plan? Question?
Not from that one workshop.
That
That was May 3rd of '08 is when they gave us the instructions on what, with the comp plan.
And they've since had 2 workshops, and they had different direction in those workshops.
Okay.
So the proposal is to do the annual work plan plus the City Council Planning Commission direction on the 14th. How many people agree with that? We've got Dave and against, and that's it. So we've got our agendas.
All right.
So let's move quickly into the downtown Littleton framework. could go paragraph by paragraph, but it seems to me that going sentence by sentence has been more effective. And was wondering what your preference is in terms of approach to review the framework. Sentence by sentence?
And again, we've not made some of the changes we even see in this. We know that the date needs to be updated. We know that there's some typos and sort of things. So we've not done that. We're really trying to minimize how many times we actually go into this. So we'd really like final language from everybody if we can get it. And then we'll do the final draft.
I gotta say, this first two sentences here, just,
We have some proposed language that might be better. So we can run by it and see if you agree.
On the first two sentences, I did see your email on that.
yeah.
And
It was
I
great,
don't
by the
speak
way.
Chinese. So we did, and this is really, Dennis has taken, we've taken a little bit of a stab at some of the others, but we did not go through all the comments because they were not consistent, and some people said to do A, and other people wanted to do M, but you nailed the first two sentences, so we did take a look at that and changed it to, the framework diagram describes the geography of downtown Littleton, the character, arrangement, and interrelationships of its land uses. It builds through a series of 9 diagrams, beginning with downtown's Main Street, and so that's now the first two sentences. And then it goes on to, the framework promotes a shared understanding of how downtown works so that citizens can more easily discuss how their community should evolve. Composed of a diagram and a description, the framework demonstrates from a land use point of view how this neighborhood is structured and how it functions. It is both a snapshot of today and a plan for the future.
Well, that sounds perfect.
A little better, yeah.
No, that sounds perfect.
Good.
A little
Okay.
better.
Okay, great, good.
Okay, so all those in favor of the proposed language? That's unanimous with Commissioner Bockenstadt away. Okay, the second paragraph. Do you have any comments on that?
I do. Most of these are simply editorial, so that it doesn't really change it significantly. I can read it as we've edited it, which is not much.
The downtown Littleton framework will be used as a decision-making tool for initiating and evaluating proposals for change and development, period. It will aid decision makers in understanding the context within which new buildings, improved parks, extended connections, and new uses will be situated and how each effort fits into an overall vision. And then the last sentence is the same.
That sounds good to me. Anybody have a problem with it?
The only problem I have is with that first sentence.
Okay.
Somebody ought to explain to me how this is going to be making a decision-making tool and how it's going to initiate proposals.
Oh, sure. It doesn't initiate itself, but if someone is initiating, has an idea of something, or even if they're looking at Littleton, they say, oh, here's something that may need to happen. It's an amazingly effective tool for just big picture, for the concept, I think, for people understanding kind of here's what you're looking at in terms of general uses and general character. I think you may be a little surprised as it gets used, but it is exceedingly effective. It's been our experience, at least.
How I've seen it used is that my experience of doing any 20-year plan is 1 year out, there's a lot of it that a lot of things that have come up that you didn't even think of. And I can give you a specific example in the downtown area plan from 1987, where we used a framework, and about 3 years into that plan, Coors Field decided to locate near Lower Downtown. We had done, as part of that, a whole thing of Lower Downtown. And so, certainly people didn't want to say, well, Coors Field isn't in the plan for the next 20 years, so we don't want it. What it did is it would say, okay, if we put Coors Field here, how would it affect what we were planning for the various uses in Lower Downtown, and how would it affect the Arapahoe Triangle and several other pieces that we had put in there? And so it was used to adjust the position of it so that the other goals for Lower Downtown and the Arapahoe Triangle could be realized, and we could accommodate something we hadn't anticipated.
The other thing, if you go downtown now and drive down 14th, you'll see that it's all undergoing major renovation, a huge construction project. And that all comes out of that 87 plan where there was a distinction made on a framework like this with those different streets. What's the role of the street? How are they different? So they started looking at the Arts District. They started looking at 16th being the retail street. What was the role for 14th and 15th? Very different than 16th. So as that distinction, 17th had a different role. So it's kind of getting in people's minds that this is a residential area, this is a retail commercial area, this is a primary access point. So this, it really, it's amazing. Long term, as projects either are brought forward or people start thinking about what do we need to do to improve downtown, this really comes into play. David, that's not satisfying your...
No, I've got no problem with the idea of the framework. And certainly the whole plan, the vision and how we realize it and how the parts fit together, that's what I've been pushing for all along. I just think it's a little strong. Elsewhere in the document, we're talking about how these are guidelines, these are a vision,
Gotcha.
this is not regulation, rulemaking. I just think decision-making is a bit strong.
Okay.
The rest of it, I have no problem with. It's exactly the way it's going to be used. I just think the framework as a decision-making tool.
Well, it says aid decision makers. I don't think
So
it's a
as a
decision-making
guide.
tool.
Well, that's what it says,
It
decision-making
says it the
tool.
first sentence.
First sentence.
So
As a tool to
guide-
initiate and evaluate proposals, a developer comes in and says, okay, I wanted to put a business downtown, or an office building downtown. This will tell me about where it should go and how it's going to relate to the old downtown, old Main Street or the residential areas. I understand that. I just think decision-making starts to make it sound like it has the rule of law or regulation, and it doesn't.
Okay. So another term in there in terms of, in terms of planning tool or...
I just say a tool. It's a
Okay.
tool to initiate and evaluate. The developers will use it to pick where they think they'd like to go. Staff, DRC, and we will decide, okay, does it really fit what we had in mind when we put this framework and the overall pattern together?
So let's take the first sentence. The proposal is to strike decision-making and just have the downtown Littleton framework will be used as a tool to initiate and evaluate proposals for changes and development.
Although with the changes we're proposing, it would be for initiating and evaluating, if that's all right. So proposals.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, initiating and evaluating based on the changes Sarah Jane mentioned. All those in favor of that? That is unanimous. So the second sentence, did you want to say something different than decision makers
The only
there?
thing we did was we put adjectives in front of connections and uses, so it's extended connections and new uses. So that's the only change we made in the second.
What's
sentence.
that?
So it reads, it will aid decision makers in understanding the context within which new buildings, comma, improved parks, comma, extended connections, comma, and new uses. So it's parallel structure, everything's got an adjective.
The only comment I have on this second sentence, and this is more of the semantics of the terms we're using, when is something a plan versus a vision? So I think vision is appropriate here, but what it didn't correlate for me was what we were doing up on top. So the last sentence up on top where it says, it is both a snapshot of today and a plan for the future. Is it a plan for the future or a vision of the future?
It might make nice linkage between the two paragraphs,
Yeah.
too.
Because again, a plan seems to dictate more.
Details.
Yeah.
So maybe vision for both?
Yeah. And there is a vision, which hopefully we'll get to tonight.
It's written out.
It's written now what
Yeah,
the...
I have some comments on that, but but I think here it was so it feels appropriate to me down in this bottom paragraph, but it's not linking to what the intent is up front of what this
Do you propose
framework.
changing it to plan?
I propose the last sentence to be, it is on the top, it is both a snapshot of today and a vision for the future. So I'm going back to the original.
So in the very last sentence, change it to a vision for the future?
Yeah.
All those in favor of changing it to a vision? It's unanimous. So then back down to the second sentence. All those agree with that sentence? And that is Dave, you for it?
Yeah,
Kurt?
it's
Linda
fine.
against? The framework provides the community a common language to discuss ideas, to adjust proposals so that they are a better fit, and to coordinate new developments, so each addition or change is an improvement to the whole. All those in favor of that? I had a problem with this paragraph because it seemed really awkward, and I was confused as to what the meaning was. So I just wanted to mention that. So that leads us to boundaries, Main Street, spine, and iconic structures.
The only change we made here was we had a comment last time about get rid of railroad depression, just use railroad. So we've done that. So the first sentence reads, downtown is bounded by the railroad and Santa Fe Drive, comma, Main Street, comma, the spine of downtown runs, period. That's the first sentence, all right. And Santa Fe Drive, period.
Okay, so all those who favor that language? So seeing unanimous, so that takes us to the second sentence.
Which says Main Street, comma, the spine of downtown. I put spine as a small s instead of a capital S. It's debatable, I guess. Runs east-west between two iconic structures, the Carnegie Library and the courthouse, period. So no changes other than that.
All
Tony
those-
had his hand up. Oh, he's voting already. Wait a minute.
Okay,
You asked me and I'll tell you. I think spine is a little silly. In the first place, it's a 4-block spine and it runs crossways instead of vertically tying the whole area together. Heart, yes. Spine, no.
What would you propose changing it to? Heart?
We had trouble with heart before.
I know we did, because people had trouble committing to anything. Anybody who doesn't think the downtown area is the heart of Littleton needs to go back and talk to people in Littleton, period, end discussion.
So the proposal is to change spine to heart? All those in favor of changing spine to heart? So that fails. And so can we vote on that sentence itself?
What about leaving the spine of downtown out?
That's the second best choice.
Main Street runs east and west between the two iconic structures.
Okay, so the proposal is to delete the spine of downtown altogether. All those in favor? So we've got 1, 2, 3 against, it carries? Carries? Yep.
My question is about
I'm
the
counting right.
Carnegie Library. I mean, it's a melting pot restaurant now. Is it still, does everyone know is it the Carnegie Library?
Well, it's time for them to learn.
Yeah, it's always an issue because it may change again, and when the 81 plan was done, it was something else entirely. So you always kind of worry, Carnegie probably is the most permanent name there, even though right now most people know it as Melting Pot. You're absolutely right. They don't know it's the Carnegie. So.
Well, people who haven't been here more than 10 years don't know.
Yeah.
Anybody who's been here longer than 10 years is going to recognize Carnegie Library.
Okay.
Otherwise, you'd have to name the 6 restaurants that have been there in the last 20 years.
But it's on the main framework page, too. It tells you where it is and what it is.
And it's meant to be, I mean, you have the title here, iconic structure, so it's not about the business that's in that structure, it's the structure.
It's not iconic because the melting pot's there.
So all those in favor of that sentence without the spine of downtown?
We already voted on that.
Oh, now she's voting on the whole sentence.
This would be to vote on the rest of it.
So, I'm sorry, what are,
So we're voting on Main Street runs east-west between two iconic structures, comma, the Carnegie Library and the courthouse, period.
So all those in favor of that? So we got 1 against?
I like the spine.
So the next, do you want to read the next?
Sure. The next one, other iconic structures include Geneva Lodge, comma, Town Hall, comma, the Denver and Rio Grande Depot, the Old Mill, and the home of Littleton's founder, comma, Littleton, Richard Little, period. We're adding a comma, that's the only change, I think.
So all those in favor of that sentence? Jenny, unanimous. And so the next sentence?
The iconic structures are familiar to Littleton's residents and representative of downtown Littleton, period.
Sure, why not? All those in favor? Seeing everyone?
Dave did not, I think.
Jenny?
I guess I'm wondering, do we need to go through every are we planning on going through every sentence of every category in this framework?
We'll be here all
Only if
night.
they change, right? Didn't we decide last time if they have changed? And so what Dennis is outlining were the changes, although this last one probably didn't have a change.
Well, why don't we try doing them each by section, and then see if it works, and if it doesn't work, we can go back to the sentence.
Try what? Just going through the ones that have changed, or everything?
Each topic, like the Main Street District, the government and education, industrial, and then kind of blanket voted in.
I don't have a problem with the number 2 as a whole.
Dennis, you might want to check the spelling and representative.
Yeah, I did make a couple changes.
Okay.
Does that work for you, Jenny?
I guess I would rather not go through every sentence by sentence, and to just, if there's an issue with some area, then to voice it amongst the commissioners, and then just move on.
Agreed.
Dennis, do you have some new?
Yeah, the stuff that we've been doing from now on is really pretty much editorial, so it's just not going to change the content. It really is, for example, pedestrian-friendly, it's hyphenated. There's one change to the second sentence, historic Main Street is the image that comes to mind rather than brought to mind, and that kind of stuff. Pretty minor stuff, typically.
And the other thing to remember is this will be edited by
Right.
someone in total once it's all done, so that it has a
So it all may change
constant
again.
voice.
So all the changes we make, if it doesn't have anything to do with actual physical changes to boundaries or properties or anything like that,
Well, I think
it's all going to get rehashed.
I think the editor will.
Anyways.
No, I think the editor will really just keep the language the same and just make grammatical changes and just make sure that it reads well, but they won't change the content. So that's the intent.
Right, what we're looking for is content changes.
Okay, so everybody had a chance to read this thing? And
Several times.
all the problems, you got any major problems with anything it says? Well, I know you do, Dave.
Basically with everything it says.
Well, what about the idea of just taking each section and then blanket
We'll
them?
go through each section and vote on it and see in majority rules.
Okay. So can we go back to this diagram here? Does anybody have any issues with the diagram?
Other than the basic idea of Main Street District running from Main Street all the way to ACC, I think it's as absurd an idea now as it was when we first came up with it.
But we voted on that.
I realize that. I'm just registering my opinion for the future, for the record. There is no consistency in that district, no more common elements in that district than between Main Street and the area to the north that would say that entire red area should be the Main Street District.
But we've already voted on that, right?
Yeah, but I agree with Dave, too.
So let's
But
move on.
hence the sentence that this is both a snapshot of today and a vision for the future. So the vision of the future is intended to segregate to some extent those areas or distinguish them separately than what they are today.
And I'll stick by my first statement. There
It's a
is no
snapshot of
consistency, there's no homogeneity, there's no pressure, economic or otherwise, to make that entire area develop similar to Main Street.
But can we go
Any-
ahead and just vote on this
I
diagram?
didn't want to start a discussion, I just wanted to, for the record, say I think it was a bad idea then, it's a bad idea now.
So all those in favor of that one diagram as is? So everybody except for Dave? So can we go to the second, the diagram under number 1?
I
Is,
make the motion, we vote on it as approved, as written.
okay, all those in favor? The diagram?
Talking about the diagram?
This is a
The
diagram?
diagram, yeah, the little dots.
Or the paragraph.
Under 1, the diagram there?
Main Street and
Showing-
iconic structures and the boundaries.
So we're voting on the entire...
No, that picture right there.
Just this one.
Just the one diagram, yeah. And then we'll hit 2.
If we've already voted on the entire diagram and it's been approved, why worry about the individual components? It's approved.
You can do that.
Go to number 2, Main Street District. That's what I wanted to vote on.
All right, let me just make a couple comments. The final sentence, along Main Street, this district will not change substantially. And then south of Main Street, there likely will be selective redevelopment over time.
Yeah, change it to mint.
Those 2 sentences, I just wanted to get a consensus with you all, whether you agree with it or not agree with it, because I I don't remember significant discussions previously.
Actually, those sentences were added to each section over time as a comment that Julio made about 6 or 8 months ago, saying you need to say what it is and what it's going to be at the end of every section. So those kinds of sentences were added to every single block of the 9 blocks.
So I have a question on those sentences because I actually underlined them in each one. So is this subjective? Or
Very.
is fact-based? So
Subjective.
This is our vision.
Vision or today?
Vision, yeah,
So our vision is that it will not change substantially.
correct.
What won't change? New buildings, or are we talking character? The character won't change. I think there's no argument there. But if you're saying the area, especially the area to the west end of Main Street, isn't going to change, I don't know where you guys have been for the last 25 years. The area will change.
That's what it says here, Dave. It says this district will not change substantially.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is, what do we mean by won't change? The character won't change, yeah. But individual buildings are going to change. The look is going to change. It's changing now. It's already been changing. Merle's changed it. The Tavern changed it. Some of the other buildings down at the east end of the street changed it. The look, the details are going to change. Otherwise, I guarantee you what we're going to hear is, planning commission's against change again.
So
We're not. It's the character that's not going to change. That's what we said was important.
How do you propose changing?
I would say the character of this district along Main Street, the character will not change. That's what we heard unanimously, nearly unanimously, from the public outreach 2.5 years ago. So that
I
ought to be
would agree
simple.
with the character will not change, because I do think it will change down there in the B2 area of Main Street.
The problem with putting a lot of words into a document like this is somebody can grab a hold of any set of them and make it mean what they want it to mean.
So let's go back to the proposal. It's along Main Street, the character of the district will not change substantially. Is that acceptable language?
I think that's an important distinction, so I'd agree with that.
Okay, all those in favor of that change, Karina?
Sorry, before we vote on this, so the Main Street district, again, isn't just that Main Street to the whole argument that it's a much bigger section. The character of some of the buildings and areas south of Main Street aren't very desirable.
That's
right?
what we're talking along Main Street.
That's specific along
yes.
Main Street. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
The next sentence, then.
Important clarification. Okay.
So are we okay with other than those changes?
We're going to vote on that sentence. That we were getting ready to vote, and she stopped.
Paragraph.
Yeah.
Okay, so
We're voting on a paragraph.
I would just like to suggest one thing. It says off of Main Street, the blocks there, older homes. To me, that should be the blocks consist of older homes.
Yes, I agree. And, I don't know where we are, though.
It's about the third sentence. It starts
Yes.
with off of Main Street.
so the blocks.
The blocks consist of older homes, commercial uses, and apartments. It just didn't make sense the way it was
Yeah,
worded.
I agree.
Yeah, my problem with that whole thing is we're still, are there older homes there? Yeah. Are there industrial uses there? Yeah, at least 2. But to sit there and think that 20 years from now, those few older homes that haven't already been converted to businesses and those small industrial uses are going to influence significantly the character of the area, I think is short-sighted.
So how do we have it worded now? Scattered older homes influence the character of the district and say the blocks. Okay, hold on. Let's vote on the last sentence with the character of the district. We all pretty much agreed to it, but let's vote on it again just to be safe. So it's unanimous. So now let's go back to Matt's suggestion. And how does it read?
I can't find it. I'm sure.
So scattered.
The second, third sentences in that,
Of number 2? Oh, Okay, sorry.
He's really talking about the second and third sentences in that second paragraph. Right now, it says scattered older homes influence the character of the
Okay.
district, and then these blocks are less cohesive and include a few industrial uses.
Okay. Yeah, I think
he's
we did
suggesting-
eliminate that. Yeah, I think that's what's happening.
Okay, so, number 3.
Oh, wait, we got to vote on. So Matt, you're okay with scattered older homes influence the character of the district, and these blocks are less cohesive and include a few industrial uses?
Sure.
That's, okay, so now can we vote on the whole number 2? All those in favor of all number 2? So we have Steve against and Dave against. Okay, so that takes us to number 3, Old Downtown Neighborhood.
And we didn't see any editorial changes in this.
You could take out generally.
Generally,
Generally.
can go
Okay,
right.
good, okay.
Do we
Any other
really need following the Depression and that sort of thing?
We took that out.
Oh, good, very good.
So what is it that you've got?
It says most of the houses here were built either in the 1900s, and Dennis, I can't, or shortly after.
Shortly after World War II.
And the rest of it is as written?
Except for down in the sentence which begins, most have shallow front and back yards, and, I think what happened was, that second phrase goes up above, along tree-lined streets, comma, most houses have front and
Shallow front and
shallow
back.
front backyards, yeah. So
And
that
the-
shifts up to the front, that's the only thing. And then,
In the last sentence, this neighborhood will retain its character.
Okay, I hate trying to predict or dictate. Will retain its character or should be encouraged to? We can't dictate that it retain its character.
again, it's the vision.
Okay, well, again, vision is vision. That doesn't, okay. My problem is I don't see how we're going to dictate that it will retain its character.
I think
It's our vision that we hope it will.
Steve?
I think as written, it's leaving room for interpretation or misunderstanding. And that was my comment as well, is what is this? Is this today or in the future? And I think that's what we're voicing again.
So you want to change will to should?
Should be encouraged to.
Or the intent is that it would retain, I'm not sure what the word is, but I think what we're trying to, the example that we're trying to make here is that this is a vision of the future versus what is the fact of today. So that distinguishment.
One of the things that we've been real strong with as a commission over this whole time of talking about the old town neighborhood was keeping it in the character it is now.
And with the input that we've had from community meetings, it was really clear that they absolutely want to maintain its character.
So will would be appropriate.
I wouldn't want to water this one down. I'm okay with keeping it will retain.
So should we vote on, let's vote on the last sentence with the changes, this neighborhood will retain its character. All those in favor of will retaining its character, that is Karina and Dave against. And what about approved, any other comments on 3 before we vote to approve it based on the revised language of Dennis and Sarah Jane? Kurt, any comments?
Did they still have it is rare to have a cohesive older neighborhood?
Yes.
Okay.
So all those in favor of that entire paragraph? So that is unanimous. So let's go to the residential mixed use.
No changes except a couple grammatical things. I added 2 commas. I like commas.
Got 2 spelling errors in the last.
Do we?
Last sentence.
Oh, here? Okay.
Well, actually, it's one, just neighborhood.
Oh, sure enough. Thank you.
I just noted, and I'll just mention this, I got rid of throughout, so it was, the residential mixed-use district has evolved over time and has a mix of architectural styles. instead of throughout. And then I got rid of many businesses are operated out of former homes, and helping make, and just starting the sentence with the feel of the district is predominantly residential. So I got rid of the many businesses are operated out of the former homes. I don't know if that's appropriate, but these are just my comments. So,
I have a comment on the last line, same thing. It's, Midtown continues to evolve and will change as new growth and development occurs, but it's not suggesting how it will change, whereas for comparison, to some extent, number 2 on Main Street District, we're saying there will be selective redevelopment. So I'm just not, it's not saying much of our vision, it's just saying it will change. What?
Sounds like a statement of fact to me. I mean, I can't really argue with a statement of fact. If it's going to change, it's going to change.
But I don't know that we can be making a
Because that's
statement
the
of
area
fact
that
of
a lot
a
of
future
those homes
state.
are, a lot of those homes are turned into restaurants, and et cetera. I went to the Historic Preservation Board meeting last time that they met, and they're, the house next to, what's that cafe on there?
Delizio's?
No.
Oh, Terracotta.
Terracotta, yeah, Cafe
Terracotta.
Terracotta. The place next door to that is owned by a long-term Littleton resident family, 3-4 generations. And they're gonna fix it up and build it, and the plans were approved by the Historic Preservation Board. It's gonna change, I don't know dramatically, but it's gonna change somewhat of the appearance of that old house. So, I mean, that change is gonna happen.
And I
And
hear that, I'm not
it's
opposed.
happening with the approval of the Historic Preservation Board.
Yeah,
so-
and I'm not opposed to the statement that it will change, but it's what comes after it that,
do you have any suggested language that we could add, that we might borrow from another?
I was going to say, if you insert likely before will, I mean, what we said in number 3 about the old downtown neighborhood, Steve's point is, we've said it's going to stay. Okay, so I understand the pressure to use will retain.
Will retain,
Okay,
yeah.
in this case, the Midtown is already evolving, and what we're saying is, under the new vision, the new plan, it's already evolving, and that likely is going to continue.
So it would read, Midtown continues to evolve and likely will change as new growth and development occurs.
Yeah.
I can support that.
How about just getting rid of
Will
and will
change.
change?
I mean, evolve infers that it will change.
Evolve as new growth and development occurs.
You can support that also?
Sure, whatever.
Okay, all those in favor of that? Unanimous?
I'd like to also include your changes
So for the first sentence, get rid of throughout?
throughout, and then many businesses are operated out of former homes, helping.
So start off with the feel of the district is predominantly residential.
Yes.
I think that the reason that we had that there is that those those businesses being in the homes is what helps add to the residential character of it, because they're in homes and they're not in offices. So that was the thinking. You know, whatever you want to do with that is fine.
Well, can we just vote on the throughout, getting rid of the throughout first? And all those in favor of getting rid of throughout? It is unanimous. And so how about there are residential, office, and retail uses? Everybody agree with that statement?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, that is unanimous. So now, many businesses are operated out of former homes, helping make the feel of the district predominantly residential.
And we stuck a comma after homes.
Would anybody consider combining those two sentences, saying there are residential, office, and retail uses, including many businesses operated out of former homes? I continue to have a problem with trying to say that this district is predominantly residential, because in part, I still don't know what you mean by residential. There are buildings there side by side. One is an office condo building, and the other is an apartment condo building. Now, one doesn't look more residential or less than the other. So I just don't understand the point of saying that, whatever.
I'm a voice in the wind.
So Dave's motion is to combine their residential, office, and retail uses, including many businesses many businesses operated out of former homes.
Period?
Period.
And then, who all agrees with that? That's unanimous, or Kurt, sorry. And then what about deleting, helping make, and just say the feel of this district is predominantly residential?
I think there's, it's important to mention that there's a scale associated with it. Not so much that it's a residential use, but there's a scale that's
It feels residential.
appropriate. Yeah. And maybe it's worded differently, that there's a predominantly residential scale to the neighborhood or something along those
Well,
lines.
we've got that everywhere. I mean, we've now have the checkerboard of building heights. We're going to keep that throughout the entire
Or there's a
neighborhood.
diversity of architectural styles in which residential architecture is important to that character. Because I could see, you know, if it could evolve into something that's all office, like some of the offices that are there now, if
Remembering that we aren't the ones who are going to dictate what happens. What lot gets redeveloped as residential or redeveloped as business.
Right.
Conditions are going to do that. You're not going to find a lot of residential developed along Prince Street.
But we are
That's
trying
going to
to
be
do-
mostly businesses.
But we are trying to describe what we like about, what we think is valuable about that character.
So
I
it's
really think it says this in minimal amount of words, is that it helps make the feel of the district predominantly residential. Maybe we could drop predominantly, I mean, if you want to be stickler about it, but there are a lot of residences that are being used as businesses now. But you drive by, it looks like you're going to a residential area. So, I mean, the feel of it is what we've got and what we want to keep, correct?
Yeah.
So Craig, your language?
Yeah,
there's-
yeah, I just have, after period, the feel of this district is predominantly residential.
So that, okay, so how about we vote on that?
Taking out helping make.
So those who are in favor of that, Kurt and, oh no, Kurt's in favor, Dave's against. And then the next two sentences, there are two distinct subareas within the district, downtown north and midtown. So all those agree with that sentence? We have to go back to sentences, guys. So we've got Corinne and Dave against. Downtown north has apartments, restaurants, and a motel. All those agree with that sentence?
Well, I think we should put Fleabag in front of it.
Okay, so the motion is to include feedback. Okay, Midtown continues to evolve, and we approved that last sentence. So we've got number 4 done. So how about number 5, government and education?
Yeah, we didn't make it.
I make a motion, we accept number 5 as written.
Agree. Agree.
Second.
Okay, everybody's good? All right. You're faster than, oh wait, no, I don't agree, but that's okay. Okay, so that's approved. Okay, so number 6, industrial.
We had a few editorial changes on this. Again, in the second sentence, however, as downtown evolves, this industrial zone may change if it is developed, comma, this property will become part of the residential mixed-use district and contain multifamily housing and supporting neighborhood commercial uses.
I make a motion, we accept that as amended by staff.
Okay, all those in favor? So we've got Dave and Karina against.
Can you read that?
Sure. However, as downtown evolves, this industrial zone may change, period. If it is redeveloped, comma, this property will become part of the residential mixed-use district and contain multifamily housing and supporting neighborhood commercial uses.
See, I thought in a previous meeting, we had changed that last part to say, if its industrial uses are not continued, it should become a part of. Now we're saying, if somebody stops using it, it is going to be residential. I didn't think that's what we had said 2 months ago.
Well, in the way I interpreted it, we said office and neighborhood serving businesses as supporting uses.
Well, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about
You're bad.
if it's redeveloped. What this is saying is, if that property gets redeveloped, it can't be industrial.
As I recall, that's what we agreed upon in those meetings there.
Okay, well, those weren't the notes that I wrote down. The notes I wrote down says, if it's no longer to be used for industrial.
That's correct. That was the same.
Otherwise, what you're saying is, with this, you're telling people who own those properties, when they go to sell it, they can't sell it to somebody for industrial use.
Yes.
Okay. So what's the language, if it is?
They can't change it.
If it is no longer used.
Redeveloped.
Used for industrial?
Yes.
For industrial, okay.
So
Because-
I have a question. Does that infer rezoning for that?
Yes.
Which will take city council's approval.
The discussion that we had, and it actually goes back to Julio, I think, brought this up, mostly was that this is an outdated zoning that turns out it's working pretty well right now. It provides employment, and it's a successful industrial zone. However, if they change it, in other words, they want to sell that property, that it makes sense at that time to make it more part of a downtown neighborhood than continue with the industrial use, a new industrial use. So what it does is, the people who are there now, very successful, they have every right to stay there as long as they want, but when there's a change of ownership, it reverts to residential with some commercial uses that are among the properties. That's, as I remember, where we were last time.
That's what I was trying to say.
But if that's not...
That's not what I wrote down. That's
what we didn't agree upon.
And Dave and Steve are saying, no, that you're really saying
He
it's...
said, if the industrial
It's
uses
industrial.
aren't going to continue, they can't change it to
And
something.
not
They
these
can't
specific...
make it an
not the-
amusement park.
But not these specific industrial uses, just if it's not used as industrial.
uses.
Yes.
And
So I
do
think we
we
need to vote on
as,
that, yeah.
and do we as planning commission have, so do we have the right to say it will change, even though we're saying this has to go to zoning for the zone to change?
As a vision, as a vision, as a vision. And then it still has to go
But can't we
through.
use the word will become? So it means, it's a statement that it will change, not that it will be presented for change or...
So Steve, do you have suggested language changes?
Well, right along with what we had voted on and agreed upon, that it's not, if it were to be redeveloped, it was if it
Is no longer used as industrial.
If its industrial uses are not continued, is what I wrote down from the
Okay.
meeting.
And if we voted on that, I think we should go back and just check.
I didn't write down whether we voted on it, sorry, Craig. I only wrote
I'm
down
sure,
the language.
yes, we had done that. We did.
So if, Steve, your proposal, if industrial uses
Or not continued.
Yes.
aren't not continued, it will become part of the residential mixed-use district.
Yes.
So, okay, so let's, all those in favor of that
Yeah,
change?
my only concern about that is that when you say it's industrial uses, it may be interpreted at some point that it's those specific industrial uses rather than industrial use. Whereas if you change it to if it's no longer used as industrial, comma, I think it gets it into the more generic, which I think was what you were saying.
Well, if industrial use is not continued, industrial land use, whatever.
So just drop its. So if industrial uses are not continued.
Right.
Okay. Just drop the its.
That should-
I think we're
that
okay.
should avoid that
Okay.
problem.
Okay, good.
Steve?
Steve,
Yes,
okay?
that's fine, because we're not taking away their property rights to sell it for another business.
So can you read that
Yeah.
again?
If industrial uses are not continued, comma, this property will become part of the residential mixed-use district and contain multifamily housing and supporting neighborhood commercial uses, period. And then Corinne's got another issue.
Suzanne?
Yeah, I mean, that's fine, because it's not the ownership that matters, it's the abandonment of the use. So whether you use the word not continued or abandoned, the only way that we can, I mean, we could go rezone that right now, but the use would continue as a non-conforming until the time that it was abandoned. So it's really, that is the trigger that changes the use on a rezoning.
Yeah, what we're really recognizing is what Sarah Jane was talking about. Right now, it's a very successful industrial use.
Right.
And as long as that continues, kind of like with the old downtown neighborhood, as long as that investment, the residents, the owner's investment in keeping that neighborhood single-family and looking nice and attractive and active is there, we want to make sure we preserve it. We're saying the same thing about this. All we're saying is, if it no longer becomes attractive for industrial uses, whether it's Regal Plastics or somebody else, we don't want to consider a rezoning for agricultural uses, an entertainment zone. We're defining how we think that property, once it's no longer industrial, should fit into the character of the neighborhood.
Rena, you have another comment? Oh, sorry.
No, I think that's completely appropriate in a comp plan.
All right, so are we ready to vote on the language change? All those in favor of that language change? Seeing unanimous. So that takes us out of industrial, right?
Karina, are you comfortable? Did you want to?
Yeah, I approve that.
Okay.
So now we're at parks, trails, and open space.
And we didn't make any editorial changes on this one.
The only comment I had was, is well used.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely is not. And I'm going to go back to an old bugaboo for me. Downtown has 3 parks. There's Bega, there's Geneva, and there's that little urban park.
Does it have a name?
I have no clue,
I don't even know which one.
but
you're
it is
talking about.
park. It's every bit as much of a park as anything you can contemplate fitting in along Main Street to provide a little relief for shoppers and their kids and everything else. Western Welcome Week, it's jammed. Okay, when the fireworks go off, that park is jammed. So there is a third park there.
Okay.
Downtown essentially is bracketed by Vega Park at one end and this park at the other,
And the city's Christmas tree.
and the city's Christmas tree.
Okay, so Karina motion to get rid of is well used, or is the well used, but,
So it's
and just say is largely hidden from view?
Or
Does-
but is largely hidden from view. Wrestle with the grammar later. I've got another problem with saying that Vega Park functions mainly as a pass-through. Somebody want to tell the people in Australia that Vega Park is really just a pass-through? Because I don't. Seriously, I mean, I'm making a joke of it, but it is more than a pass-through. If you work downtown, if you shop downtown, it's a respite, it's an oasis, it's not a pass-through. It's a pass-through for about 45 minutes in the morning and about an hour in the evening, but it is not primarily a pass-through, my opinion.
So
I agree with that.
would you propose to delete that?
Yes.
Yes, yeah. We don't want anything in ink that may end up in Australia.
Jenny? Jenny, you had a comment? So,
We have 2 changes then. Well, 3. We've got, downtown has 3 parks is the first one. Vega.
If we can find out the name for the other one.
Okay. Vega, Geneva, and something.
so
Yeah, the Melting Pot Park.
Carnegie Library.
Okay.
so wait,
I think it does have a name. I think it has somewhere.
what
Well,
do
well, it's Charlie. Charlie knows.
why don't we take a sentence by sentence?
Well, nobody, I mean, we have all the changes everybody made once, right? Is that true?
I can read through and see if everybody agrees with the paragraph as a whole. We'll do that.
What,
Downtown has 3 parks, comma, Vega, Geneva, and something.
What about just eliminating that first thing if we can't figure out the name of that third park?
Sure, if we can figure it out, sure.
We'll just give it a name.
Or we can give it a name. Sure.
We can-
how'd you like to have a park named after yourself?
Or Planning Commission Park.
BC Park.
Sure. Vega Park is on the east side between Alamo and Main Street, period. Geneva Park, with its small lake and picnic areas, is largely hidden from view. That's the only change. Everything else stays the same. Those are the changes.
So all those in favor of that, the entire paragraphs with the changes? That is Craig. You're nodding.
No, I'm not voting for it.
Only thing I have, it's like I was just saying, if we don't have a name for that third park, that first sentence should just go away.
Okay.
Because we can't say downtown has 3 parks.
So
Vega
talk
and
about the
Geneva.
2 big ones and be
Yeah.
done with it.
Yeah.
Okay, Craig, any?
Yeah, my concern with this whole thing is it just seems like a lot for the summary of the framework for the parks. There's a lot in the parks section of the plan. Comparing it to what we've gone through in the other ones, they're very concise, and this seems to be have a lot of detail in it. I was going to suggest that we just leave out some of the descriptions of each of the parks, just talk about the fact that there are parks downtown. There's 3 parks. They're an important part of the downtown character. Right, and then you start with Little's Creek Trail, and the rest of that I think is fine. I think the important point with the big parks that are adjacent to downtown is that they function as parks for the downtown. I think that's important to say at the end, but it just seems like there's too much detail within Vega Park is this and Geneva Park is that.
Well, especially since now all we're saying is Vega Park is on the east side between Alamo and Main Street.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
right.
what? I mean, if we were saying something like Vega Park is a quiet oasis or whatever, but it's,
You know, I'd
What's the
say
point?
that the downtown parks are important respites for visitors and residents, or something like, something more broad. And then the fact that there are adjacent large parks that are connected to downtown.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, I've got this right. So we'd leave the first sentence in, assuming we get a name for the third park, and then get rid of the second sentence completely, get rid of the third sentence completely,
Yes, and then
then everything else from there on it stays.
That's my general.
And you were saying there are 3 parks that are important to downtown.
Downtown has 3 parks, Vega, Geneva, and whatever. I would add something that are important to the character of downtown or something, just to finish that off. I could live without that, but it feels like it needs something a little bit more.
Okay, what do you guys think of Craig's suggested language?
That's fine with me.
Favor?
So all those in favor of changing to Craig's suggested language? So we have Steve, Karina, and Kurt against. So that brings us to circulation network.
And we didn't make any editorial changes on this either.
One of my comments was that we don't mention the need for a better connection from the light rail to Main Street. It's only kind of mentioned indirectly. Do we need to say something specific like to that?
So I hear your comment because my comment is also, we specify we need better crossings between Geneva Park. So we are choosing to take a position on one particular connection, but we haven't for others. And that's what I'm hearing you say, well, how come we don't want a better connection for this other section as well? My comment is, again, questioning, is this the type, are these the sentences that would be part of the framework or would be part of some implementation plan, et cetera? We either put it all in or we take it all out to collectively.
The section, the particular connections that we're talking about are shown on the framework as connecting the 3 that are going across the railroad depression there. That's why they were in there.
It's shown on the map.
Yeah, it's shown on the map.
I know we discussed the importance of that, improving that connection from the light rail station into downtown. And does it belong here in the framework, is the question.
It's on the map.
And it's part of circulation.
and we're still trying to figure out how we think we're going to improve that connection. It's a block away. I mean, what are you going to do to improve a connection that's a block away?
There's lots that could be done.
I'm still quibbling with things like Prince Street connects to Santa Fe Drive and Bellevue. It doesn't connect to Bellevue any more than it connects to my neighborhood. Okay, it does not connect to Bellevue. It connects to a half a mile south of Bellevue, but it doesn't connect to Bellevue.
But tell that to all the people that are walking and that connection. I mean, I see.
But they're not
every
walking
morning.
from Bellevue.
Yes, they are walking
But
from Bellevue
It
to.
doesn't connect to Bellevue. Okay, we're saying it connects to Bellevue. You look at the map, it doesn't connect to Bellevue.
On the
It
map,
connects to
it doesn't.
River Point.
It gives you access to Bellevue.
Yes.
And those people that live in those condos there.
And
on the
Prince
back
Street
street,
South
they
gives
can
you,
walk by.
and Prince Street South gives you access to Ridge Road.
Right.
And more directly than Prince Street connecting to Bellevue.
I guess it's only important here just because
What
Bellevue
provides access to?
doesn't connect to Rio Grande, Bellevue doesn't connect easily otherwise. I mean, that's the easiest connection to Bellevue, which is a major east-west street. So.
But I wouldn't propose saying any of those things either, because they're not any more true than this one is. If you wanted to say Prince Street connects to Santa Fe Drive and provides access to Bellevue, okay, I can go with that.
That's probably a better statement.
Isn't that Prince Street going all the way up to Bellevue up by Starbucks?
Yeah, it is.
It loops, but it's not in the downtown
What
area,
Starbucks?
but it,
What's Starbucks?
up in Riverside Center.
It's gone.
It's gone.
Oh, there's a new one there.
No, Riverside across the street,
Yeah.
across
No,
Santa
Bell-
Fe.
Right on the other
Prince
side of
Street
Santa Fe.
terminates right
On the
there
other
at the
side of
bridge
Santa
going
Fe.
across over to the west.
So the proposed language, how do we want to handle proposed changes to the language?
Provides access to. Here it does, where the Walgreens is.
Provides pedestrian access to.
Yeah. Or vehicular.
Well, if I'm driving from
Well,
my,
it does provide vehicular access to.
if I'm driving,
Wait, Steve?
Don't forget bicycles.
So Dave, Craig just brought up the point, Prince does go to Bellevue.
Where?
Where that Walgreens is, where that Walgreens is,
There by McDonald's there.
There's a traffic light there.
That's Prince.
by the.
if I'm going to Home
by the
Depot
Celtic
from
Tavern.
this
In
office,
terms
is
of
how I get there.
downtown, but it does.
Yeah, on Bellevue, you know the Walgreens?
So Prince over there?
The Walgreens?
It's across the Santa Fe and it comes up.
Show me where.
I think that's still
Grapevine.
Prince Street.
Yeah, it is.
Over here. It's still Prince.
This is still Prince?
Yes.
The road across the bridge is Prince?
Yes.
All the way over.
All right, so,
So technically,
Prince Street, well outside the downtown neighborhood, eventually connects to Bellevue.
Yes.
well, it's the same with Prince South to Ridge.
At one point, we said Prince connected to the Highline Canal, too, and it does, about 1.5 miles south. But irrelevant.
I was going to say that, yeah, it meets up there by that McDonald's and the Walgreens, but that's not what we're talking about. We all know that. I think that it provides access to Bellevue would be an appropriate phrase to add to that.
okay, so should we add provides access to Bellevue to that statement? All those in favor of that? Okay, and what about blanket approving number 8?
I have another comment.
Oh, okay, sorry.
So has there been a determination that the best opportunity for the north-south is Curtis Street? So if that was some study that said this is the best opportunity?
Talk to Jenny about that.
The other streets that would be a direct link between Arapahoe and Main Street aren't as, they're not as pedestrian friendly in just the uses that are along the street. And also you connect in with the pedestrian access to along the creek. So there's a lot of things that we were talking about of what would be the best street, and that also traffic-wise too, and for safety. So it's a very direct link.
It's also the primary vehicular route between ACC and downtown.
Yep.
So unless you're going to create competition, you're not going to shift vehicular traffic over to Nevada because it doesn't go through.
Nevada is not attractive. I mean, the
No,
lot of
it isn't right
businesses.
now, because that's one of the places that has some of those industrial uses. I don't think we need to make this statement at all. In the first place, pedestrians are going to pick their own route. Unless we're going to propose something in this plan that is specifically skewing that street to primarily interest pedestrians, I don't see us doing it so
Yeah,
far.
I mean, to some degree, any use that comes in, we're going to have some kind of interest in having an active presence on the street. But when we had the housing go in on Curtis, it backs up to Nevada. So I think there's just kind of a focus that if uses come in, you have an opportunity to say, we really want to make this more pedestrian friendly, we direct it that way, and we talk about how it's designed a little bit more so. So it's not dramatic, but I think there's an evidence.
And even the pedestrian and bicycle master plan, that this could be as important, I think, as a kind of a, hey, by the way, let's look at this closer, and let's get let's see if we can get in a bike lane, let's see what we can do. Because right now, I know for myself and with a family, trying to get, what street do I access and get to Main Street, it'd be really nice to have a very defined path to lead people. And so I think it's important. I think it'll strengthen that neighborhood. Anytime you do anything that's more pedestrian-friendly, more bike-friendly, it's going to enhance that area.
At the
flow.
risk of being the only one saying it, I'm going to go ahead and move that we strike the last sentence. If it doesn't get a second, then fine.
Well, let me just mention real quick that that is also, we included the statement in the goals, policies, and implementation strategies, so it's in the goals right now. Steve, I'm sorry.
And to further Jenny's point, we actually have voted on that also at the same time that we voted to stop it at Main Street and not bring it into the Old Town neighborhood.
I'm going to point out,
And
if we don't discuss or vote on things that we've already voted on before, we might as well stop now, because we voted on virtually everything before at one time or another.
Dave,
So does that mean we get a...
your proposal to delete that sentence?
It doesn't have a second, so don't worry about it.
We can still vote.
I think that pretty well did vote.
Okay, Steve, I'm sorry.
That's, yeah. But somebody's going to have to do something about that, the wording on better crossings are needed between Geneva Park and Slaughterhouse Gulch. And I don't want to get into another Prince Street to Bellevue conversation. There is no connection between Geneva Park and Slaughterhouse Gulch.
Well,
And
then,
three sides of a square, yes. But
do you want to just delete better and just have crossings?
Absolutely.
Okay, so it's moved to delete better from crossings are needed between Geneva Park and Slaughterhouse Gulch, as well as between the light rail station and
Or
Surge.
is it crossings or a crossing?
Yeah.
To be determined.
Yeah, so, I mean, I'm not going to worry about the specific language. All I need to clarify is we need a crossing between Geneva Park and Slaughterhouse Gulch, and we've said that repeatedly. And we need to improve the crossing between, well, okay, here's a debate. Do we need to improve the crossing between the light rail station and Stern Park? If you talk to the residents in Stern Park, I suspect you'd get some opposition. No, because if you make it easier to get across,
But
people
it's-
park in Stern Park and walk through the neighborhood. We heard that early on. Norm
Okay,
made
wait,
that.
let's vote for deleting better and just including crossings. All those in favor of
I
deleting?
think it's a crossing is needed between.
Right.
That's right.
Right.
A crossing
So they're going to have two in the
is
same
needed,
place.
and then do another crossing
Or,
between,
As well as between.
an improved crossing, yeah. But as I say,
as well as an improved crossing between the light rail station and Stern Park?
are we really talking between Stern Park, or are we talking about the bridge? Is this the bridge issue again?
Could be.
Isn't that what started this?
I thought that's what.
Yeah, I thought it was too. I don't think we were looking to connect it to Stern Park. We were looking to connect it to the areas to the east, across the railroad tracks.
Steve? No. Okay, so is your,
Something that, sorry, what I'm hearing in all of our debate around this, is it a new crossing, is it an enhanced crossing, is it an improved? And I think trying to stay in the same spirit of how we've written the other sentences, it's something like, we will evaluate and enhance the crossings around major circulation points or something like that. So we don't have to get into semantics of between here and here, it's a new crossing, between here and here, it's an improved crossing. So I think we want to, or I think the vision is, we will enhance the crossing or circulation between these.
that's also in the goals, policies, and implementation strategies where we talk about that?
Actually, if we took the sentence that starts the pedestrian connections and said the pedestrian connections across the railroad depression, Steve, that's what we were talking about there. The pedestrian connections across the railroad depression to the east need improvement, and a crossing is needed between Geneva Park and Slaughterhouse Gulch, we can leave out the rest of that sentence and not get into the Stern Park brouhaha.
Correct.
Because we talk about that in the
Right.
goals, policies, and, all right, so
So what do you want to add and what do you want to take out?
the proposal is to say the pedestrian connections across the railroad depression to the east need improvement, and
Or including a crossing?
No, well, yeah, you could, no, let's keep it separate. And a crossing is needed between Geneva Park and Slaughterhouse Gulch. And that's really tying in, it's continuing the trail system, the park and trail system we've talked
period,
about.
and delete as well as between Light Rail Station and
Right.
Stern Park.
But,
Okay, I can support that.
I mean, it seems like you're saying the same thing.
Well, I agree with Dave when he says that the people in Stern Park are going to be screaming bloody murder if we.
But I'm just wondering, doesn't the pedestrian connections across the road depression east need improvement? Doesn't that including a crossing?
Okay, I'll say, I see what you're saying, and say
Yeah.
including a
Right.
connection.
Right.
Okay, I got that.
Okay.
Okay.
So what's the wording now?
Go ahead, Dennis.
Okay, I've got it as pedestrian connection across the railroad depression to the east needs improvement, comma, including a crossing between Geneva Park and Slaughterhouse Gulch.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, all those in favor of that? Is Jenny's against? And so did we address every sentence in that paragraph? Did I miss something? No? So that means we're done with the framework. So,
I just have one formatting question for Sarah Jane. I read on the lower level these as captions, and then on the top, they're more like headings. And I immediately went to put captions on top of it. I like how these are paired up. I think graphically it looks good, but it feels like, I don't know, that maybe there's a way to balance those across somehow. It's more of a graphic issue than anything. It's not a content issue.
And we will have Chris Hardeth redoing this for us too, so, but that's a good comment.
Okay, good.
okay, so that, how about we stop for now and talk about the meeting goals, schedules, and upcoming meetings, as well as our future meetings. And then, if we have time, we can start in with the introduction. Does that work for everybody?
Okay.
So Dennis,
Tomorrow night, May 24th, there's a citizen forum, District 4. It's Debbie's, it'll be in this room, starts at 7. You're all invited to that. Next Tuesday, June 7th, actually, that's 2 weeks. Council Chamber, first reading on application to designate Weston Lodge downtown. Historical Preservation Board meets on Thursday, June 9th, and they'll be working on their design guidelines. That's a workshop. That's the third workshop. I think some of you have been to the earlier ones. That's they're working with Nori Winter to look at design guidelines specifically designed intended for historic structures. And it will be the intent is to incorporate that into our larger downtown design guidelines and standards. So it'll be a chapter, I think, specific for historic structures. Whereas ours apply for all new construction, theirs will be specific to historic. On Saturday, June 11th, we have canceled that. We've got other meetings that are coming up now, so I have to add that. Monday, June 13th, we've got a regular meeting here. We do have a business item that night, action item, and it looks like it may be a relatively short action item, so we may have time for a study session as well. And then on June 27th, so that we determine we may have an action item, we may have strictly a study session. There's an action item kind of waiting out there. They haven't turned it in yet.
What's the item for the 13th?
The 13th is, I don't remember what it is. Sarah, Suzanne? No, it's an action item for the 13th. It is,
Is it a conditional use?
oh, no, what it is it's the courthouse. It's having to go through it and looking at the courthouse, the Sternberg building, which has been sold. And in changing that, we actually had to go through and revise that site plan, the abutment plan for the Sternberg building and for the courthouse and for the Buck Center. So that's all kind of interrelated with the sale of the Sternberg buildings, having to look at how that actually works, specific to the parking requirements for the Sternberg and where that parking was located. So you'll get a whole introduction to that. So,
That's here.
and that's here, yeah. Actually, that's next door, because it's an action item, it'll be a public hearing next door. So, sorry.
What is the city council meeting on the 7th? So to for the application to designate Weston Lodge as what?
As actually, as a historic structure and to bring it into the historic district. Or I guess it's in the district, but it's a historic structure, excuse me.
And that's the,
That's the
Masonic
Masonic Lodge,
Okay.
right across from Melting
Yeah.
Pot.
that's the one that the EIB voted on the other day.
Right across from our little park. Maybe it's Weston Lodge Park.
Or could be.
Or could be, that's right. And then we have our two meetings in there as well, so the 6th and the 14th. So any questions about any of those meetings? A lot coming up.
So any overall comments on the format? I realize that we just have the introduction, the vision, the downtown planning principles, and the executive summary left, along with the appendices. We haven't really taken a look at those.
I'm going to make a suggestion. Would it help for these remaining sections that we have to go if we would all get our comments in and have a chance for all of us to look through them so that we're not going through this at each one of these meetings as if it's wholly new and we have to make the case? At that point, we can sit there and say, there have been questions raised about this or questions raised about that. Anybody have any interest in it? Let's get rid of it instead of going through sentence by sentence, word by word, adjective by adjective. I mean, if we take a little time up front and read other people's comments so we know where we stand when we come in, that could save us a lot of time.
And you gotta save us a lot of time in the meetings, but,
Kurt?
That's what we signed on for.
yeah, it's on for
I
a
think
meeting.
in the past, we've looked at that and we ended up
Didn't
going
work.
through it line by line, because you have a question on this one and she has a question on that.
Yeah, I mean, you get 9 different people here, you get 9 different changes that they wanna make on a thing, and
We
then
still have to go through each one of them.
still have to go through it anyways.
So what I'm understanding here, we got 5 more pages to go through for this comp plan. At pages 3, 4, 5, 6, and 11.
And then the appendices.
Okay, and then the appendices. And we might have a little bit of time on the meeting in the 13th, you said, and we might have some time after something on the 27th. So
Or the 20th.
basically, we're at the beginning of July before we get working on any more of the,
The public outreach.
on any more of the comp plan stuff. So now we're into July, which is going right back to my problem I was having earlier, where I was wanting to stress kind of a little bit of a hurry-up type thing and actually spend some of our time in at our workshop, because now we're into July before we get working on these last parts of the plan. So as far as I'm seeing, it's feasibly that we're going to be sometime into August to September before we even get done with this thing.
So are you, Jenny?
How close or how, I'd really like to wrap this up. And I know it's, I'd really rather not go line by line unless we absolutely have to, unless there's a real issue with a certain paragraph. And, I would like to really, this next time through, to get through the executive summary, introduction, basically the last remaining pieces in here so that we can have Dennis and Sarah Jane make those final tweaks so that we can have a plan that we can go through and approve.
So, Kurt?
And I would just further add to that, I don't personally feel that we need to review the appendix. I mean, the appendix is what it is. As long as it's factual and it's been checked, it's...
And we can have a brief discussion on it, definitely. And it isn't part of the plan. It's separate. You can actually, it's easier to change that if you want to later. So it certainly isn't the meat. The critical stuff is the rest of it.
So do we need to have a separate meeting just to finish up the comp plan? Finish up the introduction, the executive summary, the vision, downtown planning principles, and get that all done, and then decide how to handle the appendices? And then at the following meeting, we'll get a final draft coming to us where we blanket approve.
What about after our thing on the 13th, we finish, say, the introduction and the vision?
Let's don't limit it, let's finish what we can.
Well, if we say we're going to do what we can, we don't really get anything done. That's why I think we need to do something.
That's because I haven't been here the last 8 years.
Yeah, but we need to actually say that we're going to stay and we're going to get something done before we move on, or we're going to drag it into the next meeting.
Okay, I'm all in favor of getting this done, so whatever it's going to take, if it's going to be extra hours or whatever, we can get it done.
So do we want to stay then on the 13th till whenever we finish the conflict?
I'm saying that the introduction and the vision.
By executive summary, we should be able to take care of that.
We ought to be able to take care of all of it.
Yeah, I'm willing to do it, because this is too painful to come back here week after week and arm wrestle over every little thing. Let's get it all done right.
Remembering that most of us have been working on this for 3.5 years.
I understand. And I'm not besmirching anybody that's here, it's just that I like to have it done too.
Let me get a sense. Do you think that there are going to be a lot of changes in the introduction, the vision, and the planning principles? I mean, do you right now have a lot of changes? No? I have some changes, but that's just me. No, that you don't have that many changes, so we should.
I do, but I feel like I'm being asked to edit the final script for Ishtar, so I don't think it's going to get us anyplace.
I think what Steve is just trying to say is we have to, set a timeline for ourselves. And, kind of stress the urgency of we are committing to getting this done by the end of June, whatever that timeline is. And then it's up to us to determine how we're going to accomplish that, either by putting in extra hours or by changing the process or et cetera. So I think that's what Steve's trying to stress here, and I'm in complete agreement with that. I think what we don't have the answer to is how we're going to do that, because history has shown we haven't been able to do that. And I'm just, I'm open to some of those suggestions for those that have been here, if that's, if we can accomplish something like that.
Then I'm going to suggest this.
We're running late.
At the very least, everybody needs to read those sections. If they have a problem with the tone, if they have a problem with the details, make a note of it, get it in, so we have it on the table when we get here, and we don't discover it line by line painstakingly. We've got it out on the table to start with.
So Steve's motion that's on the table is to extend our hours to get the introduction and the vision done.
Which is three of the 6 pages we have yet to
The
do.
3 of the 6 pages. I think we can get it all done. I really do.
Are you saying
At a minimum, those 3 to where we got another meeting then at the end of June 27th, that if we get the 3 done, then we can commit to staying for the other 3 after that next meeting. So then at the end of June, we've got it done. To where if things happen, if we happen to move quickly on the 13th, then we might be able to get more than the 3 done. But I want us to commit to, after we have our meeting, our hearing on the 13th, that we can at least get 3 pages done. If it means that we stay till 9:30, we get 3 pages done. If it means 10 o'clock.
I would add to Commissioner Metcalf's suggestion too, that if we have a procedure and say everybody has to come prepared, we'll limit the time for comment to 5 minutes. 5 minutes is up, we vote on a wording and we move on. I mean, we can't keep going sentence by sentence. We have to go whole paragraphs, and we have to limit the amount of time that you have to comment. And if you're not prepared, then we're going to move on without it.
Okay?
Yes.
I can go along with that.
And I would rather not go any longer than we absolutely need to go, that keep it as brief and as short and concise, and I do think just move on. And because when we I know for myself, when it goes too far beyond 9, it's, so just do our best.
In that sense, the thing to do is, if we've got a problem with language or wording or something or sentence, come in prepared. I move, we change the second sentence to read, and be done with it.
I agree with you.
So Matt, are you saying 5 minutes for each section, like for the purpose? Or
5 minutes for a paragraph, and we're not going to go through it sentence by sentence. You have 5 minutes to propose a change in wording. Everybody votes on the change in wording after 5 minutes, and then we're done. We're on to the next paragraph. That's it.
Who's got a good timer?
I do. I'm a referee, so I get
All right, so we agree to extend the meeting on the 13th if we need to, and at minimum, finish the intro and the vision, and spend 5 minutes per paragraph, which means we should be able to get the entire thing done.
How long do you figure our action item's going to take, Dennis?
It's really up to you guys, I think. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be long, particularly since it's really an issue that's been discussed by city council. It's an issue that's gone through a lot of work already. So there's been a lot of work done in advance on this thing, so.
Is it a public hearing?
Yes.
It's a PD amendment for the Buck Center. And
There's just one other thing I would suggest, and that is that us newbies lack the benefit of folks like all the other folks. And I think what we're after here is meaning. Is the meaning captured? The public feedback? Have we captured what people want? And so if part of preparation is to say, you can suggest changes in wording, but concentrate on meaning as well. Is the public's thoughts represented here? And if it is, then let's not sweat over a word here and a word there. Let's say the meaning's there and move on.
I don't want to load anybody down with homework, but did the newbies, as we put it, get the background information on what we got from public outreach?
We did.
Survey results
We
and this
did.
one? Okay.
We did.
So since we're running late, any other issues or anything else that we should discuss?
Just one comment, as liaison to the Historic Preservation Board, there was some consternation on their board the other day about one issue that the council overturned on them. Don't need to go into details of that, but they brought up the inconsistency between the city code and the appeals process, and they want to have a meeting with us. And I suggested, yeah, it's a good idea to have a meeting with us, but I don't know. Their rule sets are a little different than ours, and they're not the final decision maker on their decisions, whereas I believe we are. Is that true?
you are on some issues,
On some
like
issues,
PDOs and conditional uses.
That's something that we could probably discuss on the work plan.
But on the work plan is that we probably need to schedule some time with the Historic Preservation Board.
And clarify what their intent is.
Yeah, and make sure that we're all rowing in the same direction.
I think that's why we had that item on the potential topic list for the agenda was the relations.
I'm just reiterating that, yes. That's all I have.
Anything else? So we have a motion to adjourn.
Yep, right here. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.